Every morning at 7, Serena Cruz made coffee for the most dangerous man in Chicago. But tonight she stood in the penthouse living room surrounded by broken glass and blood, watching Dante Moretti aim his gun at the woman who had ruled his life for 4 years. Celeste Beaumont was screaming. Valentina Moretti was crying. And Serena, the quiet maid nobody noticed, had somehow become the reason everything was falling apart. Like this video if you want to see how a woman with nothing destroyed a queen with everything. Comment your city so I know how far this story travels. Now let me tell you how we got here. The first time Serena Cruz walked into the Moretti penthouse, she thought she had entered a museum instead of a home. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath chandeliers that cost more than her entire neighborhood back in Puerto Rico. Armed men in expensive suits stood near every doorway. Surveillance cameras watched from corners she pretended not to notice. The air smelled like leather, money, and something darker she could not name yet. Fear. Everyone who worked here moved like they were afraid of breaking something, or being broken. Serena had been hired through an agency that asked 0 questions and paid in cash. The woman who interviewed her, a brittle-looking administrator named Patricia, had stared at her resume for exactly 4 seconds before speaking. "You understand discretion?" "Yes." "You understand that what happens in this house stays in this house?" "Yes." Patricia slid a thick envelope across the desk. "You start Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. Miss a day without notice and you're done. Talk to reporters or police and you're worse than done. Understood?" Serena took the envelope without opening it. Understood. She knew exactly what kind of house this was. Everyone in Chicago knew the Moretti name. Dante Moretti owned half the luxury hotels downtown. He sponsored charity galas. He shook hands with senators and hosted fundraisers for children's hospitals. And beneath all that polish, he ran the largest criminal network on the East Coast. Serena needed the money. Her mother's medical bills were drowning her. Her younger brother was 2 semesters away from finishing college. Her apartment in Little Village had mold in the bathroom and heat that stopped working every winter. So she took the job. And she promised herself she would stay invisible. That promise lasted exactly 8 weeks. Because Dante Moretti's mother arrived from Sicily and shattered every carefully constructed wall in that mansion. Valentina Moretti was 73 years old, barely 5 feet tall, and terrifying in ways that had nothing to do with violence. She moved through the penthouse like she owned not just the furniture but the air itself. Servants who had worked there for years suddenly straightened their posture when she entered a room. Even Dante, the man who controlled millions in drug money and construction contracts, softened his voice when speaking to her. Serena had been preparing lunch when Valentina first appeared in the kitchen doorway. She was wearing a black dress that looked expensive but comfortable. Her gray hair was pulled back simply. She studied Serena for a long moment before speaking in Italian accented English. "You are the new girl." "Yes, ma'am. Serena Cruz." "You are from where?" "Puerto Rico originally. Chicago now." Valentina stepped closer, examining the vegetables Serena was chopping. "You know how to make pepper soup?" Serena paused. "My grandmother used to make it." "I can try." Valentina smiled for the first time. "Good. My joints hurt after the flight. Pepper soup helps." She turned to leave, then stopped. "And Serena?" "Yes, ma'am." "You do not need to be afraid here. Just do your work well and remember that loyalty is more valuable than perfection." Then she disappeared down the hallway, leaving Serena standing alone in that massive kitchen, wondering what the hell she had just agreed to. Over the following weeks, Valentina began requesting Serena specifically for meals and tea service. The other staff noticed immediately. Patricia pulled Serena aside one afternoon with a warning that felt more like a threat. "Mrs. Moretti likes you. That's good. But don't get comfortable. Women who get too comfortable in this house tend to forget their place." Serena understood the subtext perfectly. She had already noticed Celeste Beaumont. Celeste was everything Serena was not. Tall, blonde, polished like a diamond someone had spent years perfecting. She wore designer dresses that probably cost more than Serena's annual salary. She spoke 3 languages fluently. She knew which fork to use at state dinners and which senators needed flattery versus manipulation. And she treated the staff like furniture, not actively cruel, just indifferent in a way that felt worse than cruelty. Serena had served her breakfast exactly twice. Both times, Celeste had never once looked at her face. She simply pointed at the coffee pot when she wanted more, pointed at the toast when it was not warm enough, pointed at the door when she was finished, like Serena was a trained dog instead of a person. The male staff worshipped Celeste anyway. They whispered about her beauty during smoke breaks in the garage. They placed bets on when Dante would finally propose. They compared her to movie stars and models. But the women who worked in that house understood something the men missed. Celeste Beaumont was performing. Every smile was calculated. Every laugh was timed. Every public appearance with Dante was staged to reinforce the image of the perfect Mafia power couple. She did not love him. She loved what he represented. Serena saw it clearly during a private dinner party Dante hosted for real estate investors and city officials. Celeste floated through the room in a red dress that cost more than Serena's car, charming everyone she touched. But when Dante was deep in conversation with a construction mogul, Celeste's expression went completely flat, bored, empty. She checked her phone 3 times in 5 minutes. She yawned behind her champagne glass. Then Dante glanced her direction, and the mask snapped back into place instantly. She smiled. She laughed. She touched his arm affectionately. Performance. Serena was refilling water glasses when one of the investors, a sweaty man with alcohol on his breath, grabbed her wrist. "Hey, sweetheart, how about you come work for me instead? I pay better than the Morettis." His friends laughed. Serena pulled her wrist back gently but firmly. "I'm fine where I am. Thank you." She walked away before he could respond. But she felt Dante watching her from across the room. Their eyes met for exactly 2 seconds. Then he returned to his conversation like nothing had happened. Except Serena noticed that the investor who grabbed her wrist left the party 15 minutes later. Alone. Escorted by 2 security guards who were not smiling. She never saw him at another Moretti event again. That was the first time Serena understood something dangerous about Dante Moretti. He noticed everything, including her. 3 months into the job, Serena was working late after a particularly violent night. 2 of Dante's soldiers had been shot during a territory dispute near the docks. They survived but needed discreet medical attention that could not involve hospitals or police reports. The estate's private doctor had stabilized them in one of the guest suites, but by midnight the doctor had left and the wounded men needed monitoring. Serena found herself sitting in the hallway outside their room, checking on them every 20 minutes, bringing water, changing blood-soaked bandages, making sure they did not develop fevers. She was not trained for this. She was terrified the entire time, but nobody else was going to do it. Around 3 in the morning, Dante appeared at the end of the hallway. He was still wearing his suit from earlier, but his tie was gone and his sleeves were rolled up. He looked exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. He stared at Serena for a long moment. "You should go home. They need someone checking on them. That's not your job." "I know." Dante studied her carefully, like he was trying to solve an equation that did not make sense. "Why are you still here?" Serena met his eyes directly for the first time since she had been hired. "Because someone should care whether they live or die, even if they work for you." The words came out harsher than she intended. Dante's expression did not change, but something shifted behind his eyes. "Go home, Serena. I'll handle it from here." She stood slowly, gathering the medical supplies. As she walked past him, Dante spoke again. "Thank you." It was so quiet she almost missed it. Serena nodded once and kept walking, but the air between them had changed, and neither of them knew yet how dangerous that would become. 2 weeks later, everything started unraveling. It began during a formal dinner Celeste had organized for fashion executives and gallery owners. The penthouse was transformed into something from a magazine spread. White flowers everywhere, crystal glassware, a string quartet playing near the windows. Serena was helping serve appetizers when Celeste called her over. The sparkling water is wrong." Serena had personally verified every bottle. "I'm sorry, ma'am. What's wrong with it?" "It's Italian. I specifically requested French." Serena glanced at the bottle. The label was definitely Italian, but the order sheet Patricia had given her that morning listed Italian mineral water. "I can get French immediately." "You should have gotten it right the first time." The room had gone quiet. 20 guests were watching. The quartet had stopped playing. Celeste's voice turned colder. "This is exactly the problem with hiring people who don't understand quality. They simply cannot meet the standard." She was not talking about sparkling water anymore. Serena felt heat crawling up her neck, felt every eye in the room judging her, felt the familiar weight of humiliation pressing down, but she kept her voice steady. "You're absolutely right. I apologize. I'll fix it immediately." She walked toward the kitchen with her spine straight and her hands steady. Nobody in that room saw her lock herself in the pantry for 90 seconds, pressing her palms against the shelves, breathing slowly until the anger stopped shaking through her chest. When she returned with the French sparkling water, Celeste did not even look at her. The dinner continued. The quartet resumed playing. Everyone pretended nothing had happened, except Dante. He had watched the entire exchange from the far end of the dining table, had seen Celeste humiliate Serena over nothing, had seen Serena refuse to break, and something inside him cracked. After the guests left, he found Luca Moreno, his consigliere and oldest friend, smoking a cigar near the window overlooking downtown Chicago. Luca was the only person Dante trusted completely. They had grown up together in the same South Side neighborhood, had survived the same wars, had built the Moretti empire from absolutely nothing. "You're distracted," Luca said without turning around. Dante poured himself whiskey but did not drink it. "Celeste crossed a line tonight. She's crossed lines before. Not like this." Luca finally turned to face him. "You're upset because she embarrassed a maid in front of rich people? Boss, that's just how women like Celeste operate. It's territory marking. It's cruelty." Luca studied him carefully. "When did you start caring about cruelty?" That question hit harder than Dante expected. He had ordered executions, had watched rivals beg for mercy before pulling triggers himself, had built his fortune on violence and fear. When exactly had he lost the right to judge cruelty? "I'm ending things with Celeste." Luca nearly dropped his cigar. "Are you insane? You've been together 4 years. Every politician in Chicago thinks you're getting engaged. The Russians respect her family connections. You end this now, and it looks like weakness." "I don't care how it looks." "Dante, listen to yourself. You're talking about ending a 4-year relationship because she was rude to staff? What's really going on?" Dante finally drank the whiskey. "Have you ever met someone so decent that it makes you ashamed of who you've become?" Luca stared at him for a long moment. Then he started laughing softly. "Oh, you're in real trouble." "I know. I mean serious trouble, the kind that gets people killed." "I know." Luca crushed out his cigar. "Does she even know you're interested?" "No." "Good. Keep it that way. Because the moment Celeste figures it out, she will destroy that girl. And you know I'm right." Dante knew he was right. But he also knew something else. He was tired of pretending, tired of performing for politicians and rivals, and a woman who looked at him like he was a luxury vehicle instead of a person. Serena Cruz had never asked him for anything, never tried to impress him, never treated him like he was more important than the wounded soldiers bleeding in his guest rooms. She just cared. And in Dante's world, genuine kindness was more valuable than gold. That realization was going to cost both of them everything. The breaking point came on a Thursday night during the first snowstorm of the season. Dante was in his office reviewing construction contracts when Valentina knocked on his door. She never knocked. She just entered rooms like she owned them. The fact that she knocked meant this was serious. "We need to talk about Celeste." Dante looked up from the contracts. "Mama, not tonight. Especially tonight." Valentina closed the door behind her and sat in the chair across from his desk. She looked older suddenly, tired. "That girl has been disrespecting Serena for months. I stayed quiet because I thought you would handle it, but tonight she went too far." "What happened?" "She told Patricia to fire Serena, said she was incompetent and disruptive." Dante's jaw tightened. "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that your eyes follow Serena every time she walks through a room." And Celeste finally noticed. The office went completely silent. Valentina leaned forward. "I am your mother. I know you better than you know yourself. And I am telling you now, that girl Celeste is not worthy of you. She never was." "Mama, she performs love. Serena lives it. Do you understand the difference?" Dante understood perfectly. He had always understood. He just had not been ready to admit it until now. "I'll talk to Celeste." "You will do more than talk. You will end this. Because if you marry that woman, you will spend the rest of your life pretending to be happy. and I did not raise a coward. Valentina stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked back at her son. That girl Serena notices people, Dante. In a house full of wolves, she is the only one still acting human. Do not let her leave this place thinking nobody here had a soul worth saving. Then she left him alone in that office with a decision that felt heavier than any criminal empire. Dante sat in the darkness for over an hour. Then he stood up, straightened his suit, and walked down the hallway toward the living room where Celeste was watching television and drinking wine. She looked up when he entered, and immediately knew. Women like Celeste could read power shifts the way sharks sensed blood in water. "You're ending this." Her voice was flat, cold. "Yes." She stood slowly, setting down her wine glass with perfect control. "Because of the maid. Because of me. Don't insult my intelligence, Dante. I've seen how you look at her. I look at her like she's a person, something you've never managed to do." Celeste's expression twisted into something ugly. "I have spent 4 years building your image, making you legitimate, introducing you to people who matter, and you're throwing that away for some immigrant maid who makes coffee? She has more integrity in one conversation than you've shown in 4 years. Integrity? Celeste laughed bitterly. You're a criminal, Dante. You don't get to lecture anyone about integrity. Maybe that's exactly why I recognize it when I see it. Celeste grabbed her phone and purse. You will regret this. I know things about your operations, about your money, about your associates. You think I've been decorating your arm for 4 years without paying attention? Dante stepped closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. If you threaten me or anyone in this house ever again, you will disappear so completely that even your family will stop looking. Do we understand each other? For the first time since he had met her, Celeste looked genuinely afraid. She walked toward the door, then stopped. She will never understand your world. She will never survive it. That's not your concern anymore. Celeste left without another word. The elevator doors closed behind her, and Dante stood alone in the massive penthouse, surrounded by luxury and violence, wondering if he had just made the best decision of his life or signed Serena Cruz's death warrant. Because Luca was right. Women like Celeste did not lose gracefully. They burned everything down. Dante found Serena 2 hours later in the kitchen, making tea long after everyone else had gone home. She looked up when he entered, clearly surprised to see him. Mr. Moretti, I didn't know anyone was still awake. Stop calling me that. She blinked. Calling you what? Mr. Moretti, my name is Dante. That wouldn't be appropriate. Celeste is gone. I ended things tonight. Serena froze with this kettle in her hand. I'm sorry. That must be difficult. I'm not sorry. And it wasn't difficult. The kitchen filled with dangerous silence. Serena set down the kettle carefully. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that you didn't cause it. This was inevitable long before you started working here. Okay? Okay? What else do you want me to say? Dante almost smiled despite himself. Most people would have an opinion about this. It's not my business what happens in your personal life. Maybe it should be. The words came out before he could stop them. Serena looked at him carefully, studying his expression like she was trying to decode something dangerous. Are you asking me something, Dante? The sound of his name in her voice did something to his chest he did not expect. I'm saying that for 8 months, you have been the most honest person in this entire building. You've never asked me for anything, never tried to impress me, never treated me like I was more important than anyone else here. Because you're not more important. You're just more powerful. There's a difference. That's exactly what I mean. Serena shook her head slowly. You're not thinking clearly. You just ended a 4-year relationship. You're emotional. You'll regret this conversation in the morning. I've never been more clear about anything in my life. Dante, her voice was firmer now. I make $8 an hour cleaning your kitchen. You run a criminal empire. We live in completely different universes. Then maybe I'm tired of my universe. Or maybe you're just tired. She picked up her tea and walked toward the door. Dante caught her arm gently. The contact was electric. Serena looked down at his hand, then back up at his face. Let me go. He did. But before she could leave, he spoke one more time. I know you're afraid of losing this job. I know you need the money for your family. I know you think I'm just some violent criminal who's going to ruin your life. I never said that. You didn't have to, but I want you to know something, Serena. You've reminded me that decent people still exist. That kindness isn't just weakness. That caring about others doesn't make you a fool. He paused. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that reminder, whether you believe me or not. Serena stared at him for a long moment. Then she left the kitchen without another word. Dante stood alone in the massive marble space, surrounded by expensive appliances and imported tile, knowing that he had just crossed a line he could never uncross. Because tomorrow morning, everyone in that building would know Celeste was gone, and they would start asking questions. About why? About who? And when they found out, when rivals and politicians and tabloid reporters started putting pieces together, Serena Cruz would become the most dangerous target in Chicago. All because a mafia boss finally met someone who made him want to be something more than a monster. Upstairs in his office, Luca was already making phone calls, increasing security details, monitoring Celeste's movements, preparing for war, because in their world, love was never just love. It was ammunition. The news spread through the Moretti organization like gasoline catching fire. By sunrise, every soldier, driver, accountant, and associate knew that Celeste Beaumont was gone. The penthouse staff whispered about it over morning coffee. Security guards exchanged glances near the elevators. Even the construction crews working Moretti projects 3 miles away had heard something, and everyone wanted to know why. Serena arrived at 7 a.m. exactly, same as always. She used her keycard at the service entrance, took the freight elevator to the penthouse level, walked through the marble hallways toward the kitchen. But everything felt different. The air had teeth in it. Patricia was waiting for her near the pantry, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Mr. Moretti wants to see you in his office, now. Serena's stomach dropped. Do you know what this is about? Patricia's eyes were cold. I know exactly what this is about. And if you value your safety, you'll understand that working here just became a lot more complicated. She walked away before Serena could respond. Serena stood alone in the kitchen for 30 seconds, trying to control her breathing. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the counter edge until her knuckles turned white. Then she walked toward Dante's office like she was walking toward her own execution. The door was open. Dante stood near the windows overlooking downtown Chicago, still wearing yesterday's suit. He looked like he had not slept, had not shaved, had spent the entire night preparing for something terrible. Close the door. Serena did. Dante turned to face her. We need to talk about what happens next. Nothing needs to happen next. You ended your relationship. That's your business. Stop pretending you don't understand what this means. His voice was rougher than she had ever heard it. Serena stayed near the door, keeping distance between them. Then tell me what it means. It means every rival I have will assume your leverage. It means reporters will start digging into your background. It means people who want to hurt me will look at you and see an opportunity. So you're firing me. I'm protecting you. By firing me. By giving you options. Dante moved closer but stopped when he saw her tense. Option 1. You leave Chicago completely. I'll set you up in another city. New identity. Enough money to take care of your family for years. You disappear and stay safe. Serena's throat tightened. And option 2? You stay, but everything changes. How? You move into the penthouse, a full security detail, no more taking the train home, no more walking through your neighborhood alone. You become part of this world whether you want to or not. Serena felt anger replacing the fear. So either I run away and abandon everything I've built here, or I become your prisoner? You become protected. That's the same thing. Dante's jaw clenched. You don't understand how this works. The moment Celeste left, she started making calls. By now, every tabloid in Chicago knows we ended things. They're probably already camped outside your apartment building. Serena's stomach turned over. My apartment? They work fast, and they're just reporters. Wait until my actual enemies figure out who you are. This is insane. I just work here. I make coffee and clean kitchens. I'm nobody. You stopped being nobody the second I looked at you like you mattered. The words hung between them like broken glass. Serena pressed her palms against her temples, trying to think through the panic flooding her chest. I need time. You don't have time. You have maybe 6 hours before this becomes national news. Then I'll go stay with my brother. He's at Northwestern. I'll figure something out. Your brother's dorm is not secure. Neither is your mother's house in Puerto Rico. Neither is anywhere you've ever been photographed or mentioned online. Serena stared at him. How do you know where my mother lives? Dante's expression went carefully blank. Because the same way I'm tracking you to keep you safe, other people can track you to hurt me. That's how this works. You've been watching me? I've been protecting you. Without asking me? Would you have said yes? The anger in her voice cut through the room. You don't get to make decisions about my life just because you decided I'm worth noticing. That's not protection. That's control. It's survival. For who? Me or you? Dante flinched like she had slapped him. Before he could respond, Luca burst through the office door without knocking. His face was tight, dangerous. We have a problem. Dante turned immediately. What problem? Celeste went to the feds. The room turned into ice. Serena watched Dante's entire body go rigid, watched something predatory slide behind his eyes, watched him transform from the man who had stood in her kitchen last night into something that reminded her exactly why people feared the Moretti name. When? 2 hours ago. She walked into the federal building downtown with her lawyer. They're in a closed-door meeting right now with the Organized Crime Task Force. What does she have? Everything. Financial records, names, photographs from private meetings. She's been documenting your operations for years. Dante's voice went deadly quiet. How do you know this? Because we still have someone inside the bureau. He called 10 minutes ago, said they're preparing warrants. Serena felt the walls closing in. This was not her world. These were not her problems. She was just a girl from Puerto Rico who needed money for her family. But she was standing in the center of a hurricane anyway. Dante started issuing orders like he was commanding troops. Move the cash from the Grant Street warehouse. Burn the records from the hotel acquisitions. Get Romano and DeStefano out of the city before noon, and find out exactly what Celeste gave them. Luca nodded once and disappeared. The office door slammed shut behind him. Serena's voice came out smaller than she intended. She's doing this because of me. Dante looked at her. She's doing this because she's vindictive and dangerous. This has nothing to do with you. You ended a 4-year relationship, and 12 hours later she's talking to federal agents. It has everything to do with me. No, it has everything to do with her wanting to destroy me. You just happen to be the excuse she used. Serena felt tears burning behind her eyes, but refused to let them fall. I should leave. If I'm gone, maybe she'll stop. She won't stop. She's already committed. Leaving now just makes you vulnerable. I'm already vulnerable. At least if I leave, I'm not dragging you down with me. Dante crossed the room in 3 steps and grabbed her shoulders. Not rough, but firm enough that she could not pull away. Listen to me. You are not dragging anyone down. You are not responsible for Celeste's choices. And you are not leaving this building without protection. Do you understand? Serena met his eyes. You can't force me to stay. Watch me. The threat was clear, and for the first time since she had started working here, Serena was genuinely afraid of Dante Moretti. She pulled away from him and walked toward the door. Then I guess I'm your prisoner after all. She left before he could respond. The hallway felt like it stretched for miles. Her legs were shaking, her heart was hammering against her ribs. She made it to the staff bathroom before the tears started, but she locked the door and forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly, until the panic subsided enough that she could think clearly. Her phone was in her locker downstairs. She could call her brother, could warn him that reporters might show up, could figure out a plan that did not involve becoming part of a criminal empire. But when she walked downstairs to the staff area, 2 security guards were waiting near her locker. Not the regular guys. New faces, hard expressions. One of them spoke without smiling. Mr. Moretti asked us to escort you to your new quarters. Serena's blood went cold. I haven't agreed to stay. Wasn't a request. The other guard, taller, broader, with scars on his knuckles, stepped forward. Let's make this easy. You can walk upstairs on your own, or we can carry you. Either way, you're not leaving this building today. Serena felt rage replacing the fear. This is kidnapping. This is protection. Big difference. Not from where I'm standing. The first guard almost smiled. Lady, you don't get it yet. The moment you walked into Mr. Moretti's world, you stopped being a civilian. You're an asset now. Assets get protected whether they like it or not. Serena wanted to scream, wanted to fight, wanted to run. But she was surrounded by armed men in a building designed like a fortress. So she walked. They escorted her to the 4th floor, a level she had never accessed before. The hallway was narrower here, more private, only 3 doors. The guard stopped at the middle door and used a keycard to unlock it. "This is you. Everything you need is inside. Someone will bring your things from your apartment later." Then they left her standing alone in the doorway. The room was massive, easily 3 times the size of her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A king-sized bed, private bathroom with marble everything, a sitting area with furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. It was beautiful. It was a cage. Serena walked inside slowly, feeling like the walls were closing in. There was a note on the dresser in Dante's handwriting. "I'm sorry. I know you're angry. But keeping you safe is the only thing that matters right now. We'll figure out the rest later. D." She crumpled the note and threw it across the room. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself cry. Not because she was afraid, because she had just lost control of her entire life in the span of one conversation. Downstairs in the main security office, Luca was briefing the full protection team. 12 men in tactical gear surrounded a table covered with photographs, building layouts, and surveillance reports. The girl is now a high-value target. Nobody gets near her without clearance, nobody asks questions, nobody gossips about what's happening. You see a reporter within 100 feet of this building, you shut it down. You see anyone unfamiliar watching the exits, you report it immediately. One of the younger guards raised his hand. "What if she tries to leave?" "She won't get the chance." "But what if she does?" Luca's expression went flat. "Then you stop her, gently, but you stop her." Mr. Moretti made it very clear. She stays inside this building until the situation stabilizes. Another guard spoke up. "How long will that take?" "However long it takes. Could be days, could be weeks." She's not going to like that. She doesn't have to like it. She just has to stay alive. The meeting ended and the team dispersed to their positions. Luca stayed behind, staring at the surveillance feed showing Serena's new room. She was sitting on the bed with her face in her hands. He had seen this pattern before, years ago. Different girl, same situation. That one had ended with a funeral. Luca pulled out his phone and called Dante. "We need to talk about the cruise girl." Dante's voice was exhausted. "Not now. Especially now, because you're making the exact same mistakes you made with..." "Don't. I'm going to say it anyway. You're making the same mistakes you made with Sophia, and we both remember how that ended." The line went silent for a long moment. Sophia Benedetti had been a waitress at one of Dante's restaurants. 16 years old, sweet kid, wrong place, wrong time. One of Dante's rivals had figured out he cared about her. Not romantically, just cared. Like an older brother watching out for someone vulnerable. They had kidnapped her to send a message. By the time Dante found her, it was too late. That was 8 years ago. Dante had never forgiven himself. And Luca knew that every decision Dante was making right now about Serena was being driven by that old guilt. "This is different," Dante said finally. "How?" "Because this time, I'm not going to fail. You're going to suffocate her instead. She's not a soldier, boss. She's not built for captivity. You lock her in that room for weeks and she'll hate you. Might even do something stupid trying to escape. Then make sure she doesn't. That's not protection. That's imprisonment. I don't care what you call it. She stays safe. That's the only priority." Luca sighed heavily. "You realize Celeste is winning, right? She wanted to destroy you, and she's doing it. Not with federal charges. With this. By turning you into someone who kidnaps innocent women to keep them safe. I'm not discussing this anymore." The line went dead. Luca stared at the surveillance feed again. Serena had stopped crying. She was standing near the windows now, looking out at the city like she was calculating how far the drop was. He immediately called the guard station. "Put someone on visual at all times. If she goes near those windows more than casually, I want to know about it." Because women like Serena, decent, proud, trapped, sometimes made terrible choices when they felt powerless. And Luca had seen enough bodies to know that good intentions did not stop gravity. 3 hours later, Valentina Moretti appeared in Serena's doorway carrying a tray of food. She did not knock, just walked in like she owned the place, which technically she did. Serena was still standing near the windows. She had not moved in over an hour. Valentina set the tray on the table. "You need to eat." "I'm not hungry." "I did not ask if you were hungry. I said you need to eat." Serena turned slowly. Valentina was wearing a simple black dress. Her gray hair was pulled back. She looked tired but determined. "Did he send you?" "Nobody sends me anywhere. I go where I choose." "Then why are you here?" "Because my son is an idiot and someone needs to explain things to you properly." Despite everything, Serena almost smiled. Valentina gestured toward the chair. "Sit, eat, listen." Serena sat. Not because she wanted to, but because something about Valentina's tone reminded her of her own grandmother, someone who did not tolerate nonsense but always meant well. Valentina poured tea with steady hands. "You think my son kidnapped you. He did kidnap me. He protected you badly. There is a difference." "Doesn't feel different." "I know, but you need to understand something about Dante. When he was 19 years old, someone he cared about was killed because he failed to protect her. A young girl. Innocent. Wrong place, wrong time." Serena felt her anger faltering. "What happened?" "She was taken by rivals who wanted to hurt my son. They tortured her for 3 days before he found her. By then, there was nothing left to save." Valentina's voice never wavered. "Dante blamed himself, still blames himself. Every decision he makes now about safety comes from that guilt. So when he locks you in this room, he is not trying to control you. He is trying to prevent another funeral." Serena felt tears burning again. "That doesn't make this okay." "No, it does not. But it explains it." Valentina reached across the table and took Serena's hand. "My son is dangerous. He has done terrible things. He will do terrible things again. But he is also capable of loving people so completely that it destroys him when he fails them." She paused. "He is failing you right now. Not because he does not care, because he cares too much and does not know how to do it correctly." Serena pulled her hand back. "What am I supposed to do? Just accept being a prisoner?" "No, you are supposed to fight back. Tell him he is wrong. Make him see you as a person instead of someone who needs saving." "He won't listen." "Then make him listen. You are not Sophia. You are not weak. You are not helpless. Show him that." Valentina stood and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked back. "One more thing. Celeste is not just talking to federal agents. She is talking to people far more dangerous, the Russians, the Colombians, anyone who wants Dante dead." Serena's blood went cold. "How do you know?" "Because I still have friends in places my son has forgotten about. And those friends tell me that Celeste is offering information to anyone willing to hurt the Moretti family." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand that the danger is real, not imagined, not exaggerated, real. People will try to kill you to hurt my son, and the only way you survive is by letting him protect you, even if you hate how he does it." Then she left. Serena sat alone in that beautiful cage trying to process everything. Dante was driven by guilt. Celeste was actively trying to get her killed. And somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, Serena had stopped being a person and become a symbol. A weakness, a target, a problem to be solved. She looked down at the food Valentina had brought. Pepper soup. The same kind Serena had made for her months ago. Despite everything, she started eating. Because Valentina was right about one thing. If Serena was going to survive this, she needed to be strong enough to fight back. And you could not fight on an empty stomach. That night, Dante finally came to her room. It was past midnight. The city lights sparkled through the windows like broken stars. He knocked this time. Serena was sitting in the chair near the window, still dressed, wide awake. "Come in." Dante entered slowly, like he was approaching something wild that might bolt. He looked worse than he had that morning, exhausted, defeated. "I owe you an apology." "You owe me a lot more than that." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I want to leave." "I know. But you're not going to let me." "Not yet." Serena stood, anger flooding back. "You don't get to decide that. This is my life, my choice, my risk to take." Not when your risk becomes my responsibility. I never asked to be your responsibility. You didn't have to ask. The words came out so raw that Serena stopped. Dante moved closer, but kept distance between them. I know you think I'm a monster. I know you think I'm controlling you, and maybe I am. But I need you to understand something. He paused, struggling with words that clearly did not come easily. Every person I have ever cared about has been used against me. My father, my sister, people who worked for me, friends, everyone. And most of them ended up dead because I was not careful enough, not fast enough, not ruthless enough. His voice cracked slightly. I will not let that happen to you, even if you hate me for it. Serena felt her anger draining away, replaced by something more complicated. I don't hate you. Dante looked at her carefully. You should. Why? Because you're trying to keep me safe in the worst possible way? Yes. That just makes you human, not a monster. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or hope. Serena sat back down, suddenly exhausted. Your mother told me about Sophia. Dante's entire body tensed. She had no right. She had every right. Because I needed to understand why you're doing this. Serena looked up at him. And now I do. But that doesn't mean I'm okay with being locked in this room indefinitely. What do you want? I want a say in my own protection. I want to know what's happening. I want to be treated like a person instead of cargo. Dante considered this. Okay. Okay? You can attend the security meetings. You can know everything we know. And when this situation stabilizes, you can decide whether to stay or leave. Really? But until then, you stay in this building. That's non-negotiable. Serena exhaled slowly. It was not freedom, but it was something. Deal. Dante's shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me yet. He turned to leave. Serena spoke before she could stop herself. Dante? He looked back. Your mother said Celeste is talking to other people. Not just federal agents. I know. Who? His expression went dark. Everyone who wants me dead. Which is a very long list. How do we stop her? We don't. We survive her. Then he left her alone again. But this time the room felt less like a cage and more like a fortress. And Serena realized something terrifying. She was starting to understand how Dante's world worked. And worse, she was starting to think like someone who belonged in it. Downstairs, Luca was meeting with someone Dante did not know about. Marco Rinaldi sat across from him in the underground parking garage, smoking a cigarette with the calm confidence of someone who had killed people before breakfast. Marco worked for the Benedetti family, the same organization that had killed Sophia 8 years ago. The same organization that now had a fragile peace treaty with the Morettis. So, Marco said quietly, I hear Dante's got himself a new girlfriend. Luca's expression stayed neutral. Not your concern. It becomes my concern when Celeste Beaumont starts offering my boss information about Moretti operations in exchange for protection. Celeste went to the Benedettis 2 days ago. Showed up at Giovanni's estate with a briefcase full of documents. Said she could give us everything we needed to destroy Dante's empire. Luca felt ice spreading through his chest. What did Giovanni say? Marco smiled coldly. He said no. Because unlike Celeste, Giovanni remembers what happened the last time someone went after a woman Dante cared about. The war that followed killed 43 people on both sides. He dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his boot. But Giovanni also said to deliver a message. If Dante wants peace to continue, he needs to handle Celeste quietly. Because if she keeps making the rounds offering information, eventually someone's going to accept. And then we're all going to war again. Noted. Also tell your boss that protecting civilians is noble. But it's also stupid. That girl upstairs is a walking target. Best thing he could do is send her somewhere far away and pretend she never existed. I'll pass that along. Marco stood. One more thing. There's a bounty. Luca's blood went cold. How much? 500,000, dead or alive. Posted on the darknet 6 hours ago by an anonymous account. For the girl? For anyone close to Dante Moretti. But sources say it's specifically targeting his new interest. Marco walked toward his car. You've got maybe 48 hours before professional hitters start showing up. After that, all the security in the world might not be enough. He drove away, leaving Luca standing alone in the parking garage. Luca immediately pulled out his phone and called Dante. We have a bigger problem. What now? There's a bounty on Serena. 500,000, posted 6 hours ago. The line went completely silent. Then Dante's voice came back, colder than Luca had ever heard it. Find out who posted it. Already working on it. And Luca? Yeah? Double the security on her room. Nobody gets within 50 feet without authorization. And prepare the safe house upstate. If things get worse, we're moving her. Understood. Dante hung up. Luca stood in the darkness, surrounded by concrete and shadows, and realized something terrible. They were not just protecting Serena anymore. They were at war. And in war, people died, even innocent ones. Upstairs, Serena stood at her window overlooking the city, completely unaware that professional killers were already purchasing plane tickets to Chicago. Completely unaware that the bounty on her head was higher than most people earned in 10 years. Completely unaware that the man trying to save her was about to become the most dangerous version of himself she had ever seen. Because Dante Moretti had built an empire on violence. And now someone had given him a reason to burn the entire world down. All to protect a woman who just wanted to make coffee and send money home to her family. The storm was coming, and there was nowhere left to run. The safe house was 2 hours north of Chicago, buried in the woods where cell phone signals died, and the nearest neighbor was 3 miles away through trees that blocked out most of the sunlight even at noon. Serena sat in the back of an armored SUV watching the city disappear behind them, flanked by guards, who had not spoken a single word since they escorted her out of the penthouse at 4 in the morning. Dante was in the front passenger seat, his phone pressed to his ear, issuing orders in a voice that sounded like it could cut through steel. I don't care what it costs. Find out who posted that bounty. Check every darknet marketplace. Trace the cryptocurrency. Bribe whoever needs bribing. I want a name by tonight. He ended the call and immediately made another one. Serena watched the back of his head, studying the tension in his shoulders, the way his free hand kept clenching into a fist against his thigh. This was not the man who had stood in her kitchen talking about wanting to be better. This was the Mafia boss who had built an empire on bodies and fear. And for the first time since this nightmare started, Serena wondered if she had made a terrible mistake trusting him. The safe house looked like something from a spy movie. Stone walls, reinforced doors, security cameras hidden in the trees, a generator in the basement powerful enough to run the entire property off-grid for months. Inside it felt more like a bunker than a home. Concrete floors, minimal furniture, windows covered with steel shutters that could be sealed electronically. A weapons cache in the living room that made Serena's stomach turn. Luca was already there, waiting in the kitchen with 3 other men Serena had never seen before. Dante walked in and immediately started debriefing. Status? Luca gestured to the shortest of the 3 men, someone with a shaved head and scars running down his neck. This is Anton, former Russian intelligence, best tracker I know. Anton nodded once but said nothing. Luca continued. He's been monitoring the darknet since last night. The bounty originated from a cryptocurrency wallet registered in the Cayman Islands. Untraceable so far, but the posting included specific details about Serena's movements, her work schedule, her apartment address, her brother's dorm room number. Serena felt ice flooding her veins. My brother? He's safe. We moved him to a hotel under a false name 3 hours ago. He thinks it's witness protection related to a case he knows nothing about. You kidnapped my brother? We protected your brother, Dante said flatly. There's a difference. Stop saying that. You keep using that word like it justifies everything. Her voice echoed through the concrete space. The guards exchanged glances but said nothing. Dante turned to face her fully for the first time since they left Chicago. Your brother is alive because we moved him. Your mother is alive because we have people watching her house in San Juan right now. You are alive because you're standing in a fortress nobody knows exists. So yes, I'm going to keep using that word. Serena wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to run, but she was surrounded by armed men in the middle of nowhere. So she did the only thing she could do. She walked out of the kitchen and locked herself in one of the back bedrooms. The door was solid steel. She could hear Dante and Luca arguing through it, but could not make out the words. She sat on the narrow bed with her back against the wall and finally let herself fall apart. Not because she was scared, Because she was furious. Furious at Dante for dragging her into this. Furious at Celeste for being vindictive enough to destroy innocent people. Furious at herself for ever thinking she could work in that world and remain untouched by it. Someone knocked on the door 20 minutes later. Go away. It's Valentina. Serena stood immediately and opened the door. Valentina looked exhausted. She was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual elegant dresses. Her hair was down. She looked older suddenly, more fragile. May I come in? Serena stepped aside. Valentina closed the door behind her and sat on the bed. My son is making mistakes. That's an understatement. But his heart is in the right place. His heart doesn't matter if his actions keep destroying my life. Valentina was quiet for a moment. You are right to be angry, but I need you to understand something. That bounty is not just about money. It is a message. What message? That someone powerful wants Dante to suffer, and they know the fastest way to hurt him is through you. Serena sat down heavily beside her. Who would do that? That is what we are trying to find out. Celeste? Valentina shook her head slowly. Celeste is vindictive, but she does not have the connections to organize something like this. Someone else is involved. Someone with resources. Who? That is the question keeping my son awake at night. Serena rubbed her face with both hands. I just wanted to send money home to my family. That's all. Now I'm hiding in a bunker while professional killers hunt me. Valentina reached over and took her hand. I know, and I'm sorry, but running will not save you now. The only way out is through. Through what? Through whatever comes next. Then Valentina stood and walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked back. My son cares about you, more than he has cared about anyone in years. That makes you dangerous to his enemies, but it also makes you valuable to him. Remember that when things get worse. Worse than this? Valentina's expression was grim. Much worse. Then she left. Serena sat alone in that cold room, trying to process everything. Someone wanted her dead to hurt Dante. Someone with resources and connections. Someone who knew exactly where she would be vulnerable. And nobody knew who. That night, Anton found something. Serena was in the main room when Dante called everyone together. The atmosphere was electric with tension. Anton pulled up a laptop and turned it toward Dante. The cryptocurrency wallet that posted the bounty received a transfer 2 weeks ago, before Celeste left. The transfer came from a shell company registered in Luxembourg. Who owns the shell company? Anton smiled grimly. That is where it gets interesting. The company is owned by another company, which is owned by another company. Classic money laundering structure. But I traced it back through 6 layers. He pulled up a document. The original owner is a private equity firm based in Manhattan, Beaumont Capital. The room went completely silent. Serena watched Dante's expression turn to stone. Celeste's family. Not just her family, Luca said quietly. Her father specifically, Richard Beaumont. Dante's jaw clenched so tight Serena could see the muscles jumping. He put a hit on Serena to protect his daughter's reputation. Or to punish you for embarrassing his family, Luca countered. The Beaumonts are old money. They care about image more than anything else. You ended things with Celeste publicly, made her look weak, made them look weak. Serena felt like she was drowning. So this is all about pride? Someone's trying to kill me because a rich family got embarrassed? Nobody answered, because the answer was yes, and that made it even more horrifying. Dante pulled out his phone. I'm calling Richard Beaumont. That's a bad idea, Luca warned. I don't care. He dialed. The phone rang 4 times before a smooth, cultured voice answered. Dante, I was wondering when you'd call. Dante put the phone on speaker so everyone could hear. You put a bounty on an innocent woman. Richard Beaumont laughed softly. I have no idea what you're talking about. $500,000. Posted on the darknet. Traced back to your company. Dante, you've always been paranoid. It's one of your least attractive qualities. Call it off. Even if I knew what you were referring to, which I don't, why would I help you? Because if anything happens to her, I will burn your entire family to the ground, starting with Celeste. The line went quiet for a moment. When Richard spoke again, his voice was colder. You broke my daughter's heart. You humiliated her in front of everyone who matters. You threw away 4 years like she was garbage. Did you really think there would be no consequences? Your daughter went to the feds. My daughter is protecting herself, as any smart woman would. By destroying innocent people? There are no innocent people in your world, Dante. You know that better than anyone. Dante's free hand was shaking. If you don't call off that bounty, then what, you'll start a war? Over a maid? Please, even you're not that stupid. Richard paused. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to accept that your actions have consequences. You're going to understand that you don't get to walk away from a Beaumont without paying a price. And that girl hiding in whatever hole you've put her in, she's going to learn that fairy tales don't exist in the real world. The line went dead. Serena watched Dante slowly lower the phone. His expression was terrifying, not angry, empty, like something inside him had been switched off. Luca, get me everything on Richard Beaumont. Financial records, properties, mistresses, illegal deals, everything. Boss us, everything. Luca nodded and left the room. Dante finally looked at Serena. I need to tell you something. What? Richard Beaumont doesn't make empty threats. If he's behind that bounty, he won't stop until either you're dead or I'm ruined. So what do we do? Dante's voice was hollow. I give him what he wants. Serena's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means I end this, publicly. I make a statement that we're not together, that you meant nothing, that Celeste was right and I made a mistake. And you think that will work? It might. If he believes I don't care about you, you stop being valuable as leverage. Serena stood slowly. So you're going to lie, tell the world I'm nobody, convince everyone you never cared, to keep you alive? Yes. And what if I don't want that? It's not about what you want. It's about what keeps you breathing. Serena felt tears burning but refused to let them fall. You're giving up. I'm being realistic. You're being a coward. The words hung in the air like broken glass. Dante flinched. Maybe I am, but you'll be alive to call me one. He walked out before she could respond. Serena stood in that cold concrete room surrounded by weapons and guards and surveillance equipment, feeling more alone than she had ever felt in her life. Because Dante was right. This was not a fairy tale. This was a nightmare. And she had no idea how to wake up. 3 days passed in that bunker. Dante barely spoke to her. He spent most of his time on the phone or in closed-door meetings with Luca and Anton. Valentina tried to bridge the gap, but even she seemed defeated by the situation. Serena spent her time staring at concrete walls and wondering how her life had collapsed so completely. On the fourth night, everything exploded. Serena was half asleep when gunfire shattered the silence. Not one shot, dozens. Automatic weapons tearing through the darkness outside. She rolled out of bed and hit the floor, heart hammering. The door burst open and one of the guards grabbed her arm. We need to move. Now. What's happening? They found us. Serena's blood turned to ice. The guard dragged her into the hallway. More gunfire, glass shattering, men shouting. Dante appeared from somewhere, gun in hand, face spattered with blood that might not have been his. Get her to the basement. Go. The guard pulled Serena toward a stairwell. Behind them, she heard Luca screaming orders. North side breach. 3 hostiles down. More coming through the trees. They reached the basement and the guard shoved Serena into a small room with steel walls. A panic room. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except Mr. Moretti or Luca. Understood? Wait. But he was already gone. The door sealed shut with a pneumatic hiss. Serena was alone in the darkness, with only the sound of her own breathing and the muffled gunfire above. She had no idea how long she waited. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Time stretched and warped in that pitch-black space. Finally, the door opened. Dante stood there, covered in blood, breathing hard. Are you hurt? Serena shook her head, unable to speak. We need to move. The house is compromised. He pulled her out of the panic room and up the stairs. The main floor looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in the walls, shattered furniture. 2 bodies near the door that Serena tried not to look at. Luca was waiting by an SUV in the garage. 6 hostiles dead, 2 escaped into the woods. Anton's tracking them now. How did they find us? Don't know yet, but we need to assume every location is burned. They drove for 30 minutes in complete silence. Finally, they stopped at an abandoned warehouse near the Indiana border. Inside, Anton was waiting with a laptop, and his expression was grim. "We have a problem." "What problem?" Dante asked. Anton turned the laptop around. On the screen was surveillance footage from inside the safe house, dated 2 days ago, showing Luca having a conversation on his phone while standing alone in the kitchen. Anton hit play. Luca's voice came through clearly. "I don't care what he wants. This ends now. Send the location. Make it look like a leak. But keep Dante alive. He needs to see what betrayal costs." The footage ended. Serena watched Dante's face go from confusion to disbelief to something that looked like death itself. He turned slowly toward Luca. "Tell me that's not real." Luca met his eyes without flinching. "I can't." The warehouse went silent. Dante's voice was barely a whisper. "How long?" 6 months. "Why?" Luca's expression was cold. "Because you stopped being the man I followed. You became weak, distracted, willing to start wars over a woman who means nothing to this organization." "So you tried to have her killed?" "I tried to wake you up, show you what happens when you let feelings override strategy." Dante pulled his gun so fast Serena barely saw it. He aimed it directly at Luca's chest. "Give me one reason not to kill you right now." Luca smiled grimly. "Because I'm the only person in this room who knows where the Beaumonts are moving their money. I'm the only one who's been tracking their operation for months. Kill me, and you lose your only chance at destroying them." "I don't need you to destroy them." "Yes, you do, because Richard Beaumont has 6 different mercenary teams on retainer. He has connections in every federal agency. He has enough money to buy entire police departments." Luca stepped closer to the gun. "You want revenge? You need me. You want to keep her alive? You need me. You want to survive the war that's coming? You absolutely need me." Dante's hand was shaking. Serena watched him struggle with the decision. Finally, he lowered the gun. "You're dead to me." "Good. Because the man you've become is dead to me too." Luca walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back at Serena. "You should have run when you had the chance. This doesn't end well for anyone." Then he disappeared into the darkness. Serena stared at Dante, watching him come apart in real time. His oldest friend, his consigliere, the person he trusted most in the world, had betrayed him. Not for money, not for power. Because Dante had changed, because he had cared about something more than the empire. Dante dropped the gun and sank down against the warehouse wall, head in his hands. For the first time since Serena had met him, Dante Moretti looked completely broken. And Serena realized something terrifying. She was all he had left. One woman against an army of enemies, one maid from Puerto Rico against families with unlimited money and resources. One person who never asked to be part of this world, now standing at the center of a war that was going to kill them both. She walked over and sat down beside him. "What do we do now?" Dante looked at her with eyes that had seen too much death. "We burn it all down." "How?" "I'm going to teach you something, Serena. Something I learned a long time ago." "What?" "When you have nothing left to lose, you stop fighting to win. You fight to make sure everyone loses together." His voice was dead calm. And Serena understood. Dante Moretti had just become the most dangerous version of himself. Not because he wanted revenge, because he had finally accepted that some battles could not be won. They could only be survived, and survival meant becoming the monster everyone already thought he was. The warehouse smelled like rust and decay, and something darker that Serena tried not to identify. She sat on the concrete floor next to Dante, watching him stare at nothing with eyes that looked like they had stopped seeing the world as anything worth saving. Anton was pacing near the entrance, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Russian to someone who was probably selling them weapons or information, or both. Valentina had arrived 20 minutes ago in a car driven by men Serena had never seen before. She sat across from them now, her face carved from stone, looking at her son like she was watching him die in slow motion. "You cannot burn everything down," Valentina said quietly. "That is not strategy. That is suicide." Dante did not look at her. "Then I'll die." "And take her with you?" He finally turned his head toward Serena. Something in his expression made her chest tighten. "She can still walk away." Serena's voice came out harder than she intended. Stop deciding what I can and can't do. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the second someone put a price on my head. Dante's jaw clenched. You don't understand what I'm planning. Then explain it. He stood slowly, his movements careful like his body hurt everywhere. Richard Beaumont thinks he's untouchable because he operates behind lawyers and shell companies and legitimate businesses. He thinks violence is beneath him, that he can just hire people to do his dirty work while he stays clean. Dante walked toward the window overlooking empty fields that stretched into darkness. So I'm going to drag him into the dirt with me. How? Serena asked. Anton answered instead, ending his phone call. We have names now, 6 mercenary teams, all former military, all expensive, all currently positioned around Chicago waiting for orders. He pulled up a map on his laptop. 2 teams watching your penthouse. 1 team outside your mother's house, Serena. 1 team stationed near Beaumont's estate in Lake Forest. 2 teams mobile, probably waiting for intelligence on your location. Valentina spoke carefully. So you are outnumbered and outgunned. Always have been, Dante said. That's never stopped me before. Before you were fighting criminals, people who understood the rules. The Beaumonts are different. They believe money makes them exempt from consequences. Then it's time someone taught them otherwise. Dante turned back to face them. Anton, how many people can you get me by tomorrow morning? What kind of people? The kind who don't ask questions and don't leave witnesses. Anton considered this. 15, maybe 20 if I call in favors from the Serbians. Do it. Boss, Anton said carefully, even with 20 men, you are still outnumbered, and the Beaumonts have law enforcement protection. You hit them directly, and you will have federal agents crawling over everything. I'm not hitting them directly. Dante's expression went cold. I'm hitting everyone they care about, their businesses, their properties, their associates, everything that makes them feel safe and powerful. And I'm going to do it in one night so fast and brutal that by morning, they'll be begging me to negotiate. Serena felt ice spreading through her veins. You're talking about terrorism. I'm talking about war. People will die. People are already dying. At least this way we choose who. Valentina stood abruptly. Dante, listen to yourself. You sound like your father. The warehouse went silent. Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. Don't. Your father burned down an entire neighborhood to prove a point, killed 17 people, including children, and you swore you would never become him. I swore I would protect the people I care about. That's exactly what I'm doing. By becoming a monster? I've always been a monster, Mama. I just pretended otherwise for your sake. Valentina's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. Then I have failed as a mother. She walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked back at Serena. You still have a choice, child. You can leave now. Take the money he will give you. Disappear. Build a new life somewhere safe. Serena met her eyes. And let him do this alone? He is not your responsibility. Maybe not, but I'm not abandoning him anyway. Valentina studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded once and left. The door closed behind her with a sound like a coffin sealing shut. Anton cleared his throat. So, we are really doing this. Dante's voice was flat. We're really doing this. Then I need to make calls. Anton disappeared outside, already dialing. Serena and Dante were alone. She stood and walked over to where he stood near the window. Why did your mother mention your father? Dante was quiet for a long moment. My father was the Moretti boss before me, built the empire from nothing, ruthless, brutal, effective. He paused. When I was 16, a rival family tried to move into our territory. They killed 2 of my father's men, so my father retaliated by burning down an entire apartment building where their soldiers lived. Serena's stomach turned. 17 people died, including a pregnant woman and 3 kids under 10 years old. Collateral damage, my father called it. Necessary casualties. Dante's voice was hollow. I watched him justify it. Watched him sleep peacefully that night while families buried children. And I promised myself I would never become him. But now you're planning exactly what he did. No, I'm planning something worse. He finally looked at her. My father acted out of pride. I'm acting out of necessity. There's a difference. Is there? Dante's expression cracked slightly. I don't know anymore. Serena reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched him since this nightmare started. His fingers were cold, shaking slightly. "You're terrified," she said quietly. "Yes." "Good. That means you still have a conscience." "A conscience won't keep you alive." "No, but it might keep you human." Dante looked down at their joined hands like he could not quite believe they were real. "Why are you staying?" "Because running won't save me. You said it yourself. The only way out is through. You could die. So could you." "I've been dying for years. This is just making it official." Serena squeezed his hand harder. "Then let's make sure we take them with us." Something shifted in Dante's expression, not hope, something darker. Purpose. Anton came back inside 20 minutes later. "I have 18 confirmed. Serbians are sending 3 more, but they will not arrive until tomorrow afternoon." "That's fine. We move tonight anyway." "Tonight?" Serena asked. "The longer we wait, the more time they have to find us. We hit fast. We hit hard. We disappear before they know what happened." Anton pulled up a map on his laptop. "These are the targets. Beaumont Capital Headquarters downtown. Richard Beaumont's private club in Gold Coast. The shipping warehouse they use to move illegal goods through the port. And Celeste's Gallery in River North." Dante studied the map. 4 teams, 5 people each, simultaneous hits in and out in under 10 minutes. "What about Beaumont's estate?" Serena asked. "That's where we're going, just us." "That's insane. That's the point." Dante looked at Anton. "Get the teams ready. Move at midnight. I want every building burning by 12:15. "And if there are civilians?" "Get them out first. I'm not my father. Nobody dies unless they chose this life." Anton nodded and left again. Serena stared at Dante. "You're going to walk into Richard Beaumont's house while the city burns behind us?" "That's exactly what I'm going to do." "He'll kill you." "He'll try." Dante finally smiled. It was the saddest thing Serena had ever seen. "But I'm betting he's never actually killed anyone himself. People like Beaumont pay other people to do violence. They don't understand it, don't respect it. And you do. I've lived in it my entire life." He grabbed a duffel bag from the corner and started loading weapons into it. "When we get to the estate, you stay in the car, no matter what you hear, no matter what you see. You stay in the car until I come back. And if you don't come back, then you drive away and don't look back." "Dante," he turned to face her fully, "I need you to promise me. If this goes wrong, you run. You take the money in the account Anton set up for you. You disappear. You build the life you deserve." Serena's throat tightened. "I'm not making that promise." "Yes, you are." "No, I'm not." They stared at each other. Finally, Dante exhaled slowly. "You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. I learned from the best." Despite everything, Dante almost laughed. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his expression went dark. "It's Luca." "Don't answer it." "I have to. He still knows things we need." Dante answered and put it on speaker. "What do you want?" Luca's voice sounded tired. "To warn you." "About what?" "I just got a call from one of the Beaumont mercenary teams. They're moving on your mother's location in 20 minutes. Serena watched the blood drain from Dante's face. "You're lying." "I'm not." "They tracked her from the warehouse. She's at a hotel in Evanston, room 412. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't. But in 20 minutes, you'll know if I'm telling the truth when they drag her body out." The line went dead. Dante immediately called Anton. "Where's my mother?" "The Fairfield Hotel in Evanston, room 412. Why?" "Get everyone you can there right now. Beaumont's people are moving on her location. That's 15 minutes away, even driving like criminals." "Then drive faster." Dante hung up and grabbed the duffel bag. "We need to go." "What about the plan?" "The plan just changed." They ran to the car. Dante drove like the world was ending, 90 miles an hour through back roads, running red lights, nearly crashing twice. Serena gripped the door handle and prayed to saints she had stopped believing in years ago. They reached the hotel in 12 minutes. Anton's men were already in position around the building. 3 cars, 9 men, armed and waiting. Anton appeared at Dante's window. "No movement yet." But thermal imaging shows 6 people on the 4th floor, 3 in the hallway outside room 412, 3 inside a room 2 doors down. My mother? Still in her room, alone. Dante exhaled. Then we get her out, now. If we go in loud, they'll know we're here. I don't care. Dante grabbed a gun from the duffel bag. Serena watched him check the magazine with movements so practiced they looked like muscle memory. I'm coming with you, she said. No, you can't do this alone. I've been doing this alone my entire life. Not anymore. Dante looked at her. Whatever he saw in her expression made him stop arguing. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. If shooting starts, you run. Okay? They entered the hotel through a service entrance Anton's people had already secured. The stairwell was empty. Fluorescent lights flickering overhead. The smell of industrial cleaner and something moldy. They climbed 4 flights in silence. Anton and 3 of his men came with them. At the 4th floor landing, Dante held up his fist. Everyone stopped. He slowly opened the door and peered through. 3 men stood in the hallway outside room 412, all wearing tactical gear, all carrying weapons with silencers, professional, patient, waiting. Dante whispered into his radio. 3 tangos, hallway, armed. I need a distraction. From somewhere below, a fire alarm started screaming. The 3 men in the hallway tensed. One of them spoke into his own radio. Check it out. 2 of them moved toward the elevators. That left 1. Dante moved so fast, Serena barely saw it. He was through the door and across the hallway before the remaining guard could react. The fight lasted maybe 5 seconds. Dante had his hands around the man's throat, slammed him against the wall. The guard tried to bring his weapon up, but Dante twisted it away. Then Dante's knife appeared from nowhere, and the guard made a wet choking sound and stopped moving. Serena's stomach turned, but she kept watching. This was what Dante meant. Violence. Real. Practiced. Efficient. No hesitation. No mercy. Just survival. Anton and his men moved into the hallway and took defensive positions. Dante knocked on room 412. Mama, it's me. The door opened immediately. Valentina stood there in the same clothes from earlier, looking smaller suddenly, older. I knew you would come. We need to leave. Now. But before they could move, the elevator dinged. The 2 guards who had gone to check the alarm were coming back. They saw Dante, saw the body on the floor, and started shooting. The hallway exploded into chaos. Gunfire, shouting, glass shattering. Anton's men returned fire. Dante grabbed Valentina and Serena and shoved them back into the hotel room. Stay down! He moved back into the hallway. Serena could see everything through the open door. Watched Dante move like this was choreographed. Duck behind a corner, fire 3 shots, drop 1 guard, roll forward, fire twice more. The second guard went down. Then silence, except for the fire alarm still screaming, and footsteps. From the room 2 doors down, 3 more men emerged. The second team. And they were not hesitating. Full automatic gunfire tore through the hallway. Anton went down, blood spraying from his shoulder. One of his men collapsed completely. Dante returned fire, but he was outnumbered and outgunned. Serena watched him take cover behind a luggage cart that was being shredded by bullets. He was going to die. She could see it happening in slow motion, and something inside her snapped. She grabbed a fallen guard's weapon from the floor, had no idea how to use it, stepped into the hallway anyway, and started shooting. The recoil nearly broke her wrist. She had no idea if she hit anything, but the gunfire stopped for just a second as the 3 mercenaries realized someone new had entered the fight. That second was enough. Dante moved. 2 shots, 1 guard down. 3 more shots. Second guard stumbling backward. The third guard aimed at Dante. Serena screamed. The guard's head snapped sideways. He dropped. Serena looked behind her. Valentina stood in the doorway of room 412, holding a small pistol with both hands, her expression carved from ice. My son is not dying today, she said quietly. Then the hotel security and police sirens started wailing in the distance. We need to move, Dante said, voice hoarse. Now! Anton stumbled to his feet, clutching his bleeding shoulder. 3 dead, 2 injured. We need to sanitize this scene or leave evidence behind. Leave it. We're out of time. They ran, down the stairwell, through the service entrance, into waiting cars. Serena ended up in the back seat next to Valentina, watching Dante drive with white knuckles and blood on his shirt. Her hands were still shaking from the gun's recoil. She had shot at people, had maybe killed someone, and felt nothing except the desperate need to keep Dante alive. What the hell had she become? They drove for an hour, switching cars twice, until they reached another safe house in Wisconsin. This one was bigger. A hunting lodge deep in the woods with enough room for everyone. Anton's men secured the perimeter while a back alley doctor worked on the wounded. Serena sat on a couch in the main room, staring at her hands. There was blood under her fingernails. She did not know whose. Dante sat down next to her. "You saved my life." "I didn't know what I was doing." "You did it anyway." He took her hand. "Thank you." Serena looked at him. "We're not going to survive this, are we?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know." "Be honest." "Honestly? No, probably not. Richard Beaumont has too many resources, too many connections. Even if we hurt him tonight, he'll just hire more people, send more teams. Eventually he'll win." "Then why are we fighting?" "Because some fights are worth having even if you lose." Serena felt tears burning. "I don't want to die." "I know. And I don't want you to die either." Dante pulled her closer. "Then we'll figure something out. We always do." But his voice sounded hollow, like even he did not believe it anymore. Across the room, Valentina was speaking quietly with Anton. Serena could not hear the words, but she could read their expressions. They were planning something they did not want Dante to know about. And Serena realized that everyone in this room was making impossible calculations about who would survive and who would die when this nightmare finally reached its conclusion. Dante's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered anyway. "Who is this?" "It's Richard Beaumont." Dante's entire body tensed. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen. You just killed 6 of my people at that hotel. Very impressive. Very dramatic." Richard's voice was calm, amused even. "But ultimately pointless, because I've just authorized 12 more teams, 48 professionals, all converging on Wisconsin as we speak." Serena felt her blood turn to ice. How did I know where you are?" "Please, Dante. I have satellites, thermal imaging, facial recognition software tracking every gas station camera from Illinois to the Canadian border. Did you really think you could hide from me?" Richard paused. "So here's what's going to happen. You have 2 options. Option 1, surrender yourself and the girl. Face consequences like adults. Or option 2, watch everyone you care about die over the next 24 hours while you run like a coward." "I'll kill you first." "No, you won't. Because if anything happens to me, my lawyer has instructions to release information that will destroy what's left of your organization. Bank accounts, names, every operation you're running, all of it sent to federal prosecutors, rival families, and the media simultaneously." Richard's voice turned colder. "You lose either way, Dante. The only choice you have is how many people die before you accept that. Go to hell." "I'll see you there." The line went dead. Dante sat frozen, phone still pressed to his ear. Serena watched him realize the trap had finally closed. They were out of options, out of time, out of everything except the knowledge that tomorrow would bring either surrender or annihilation, and neither choice was survivable. Dante finally lowered the phone. When he spoke, his voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere very far away. "We have maybe 6 hours before they find this location." "Then what do we do?" Serena whispered. Dante looked at her with eyes that had accepted death as the only remaining option. "We stop running." "And?" "And we remind Richard Beaumont that some people are most dangerous when they have absolutely nothing left to lose." He stood and walked to the window overlooking dark woods that stretched endlessly. "Call everyone in. Every favor I'm owed. Every connection I have. Every person who ever said they'd die for the Moretti family." Anton appeared beside him. "Boss, that's maybe 30 people. Against 48 trained mercenaries. I know. Those are not good odds. I've survived worse." "When?" Dante's smile was terrible. "I haven't. But there's a first time for everything." He turned to face the room. "We're going to do something insane. Something nobody expects." "What?" Serena asked. Dante's expression was pure steel. "We're going to Beaumont's estate. Tonight. Right now. And we're going to end this before his mercenaries ever leave Chicago." The room erupted. Anton protesting, Valentina objecting, the wounded men arguing this was suicide. But Serena understood, because sometimes the only way to survive a trap was to walk straight into it, before anyone else could, and burn it down from the inside. She stood and walked over to Dante. "I'm coming with you." "No." "Yes." "Serena, you said some fights are worth having even if you lose. So let's go lose together." Dante stared at her. Then he pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "You're going to get us both killed." "Probably. I've met worse ways to die." They loaded weapons into cars while Valentina cried silently, and Anton made impossible calculations about how to keep them alive for more than 10 minutes. By 3 in the morning, they were driving back toward Chicago, toward the estate where Richard Beaumont slept peacefully, toward the final confrontation that would determine whether either of them saw another sunrise. And Serena realized that somewhere in the chaos and violence and impossible choices, she had stopped being the girl who made coffee and sent money home. She had become someone who would walk into hell holding hands with a monster, and call it love. The Beaumont estate sat on 12 acres of manicured lawns and old money in Lake Forest, 30 miles north of Chicago. Stone walls, iron gates, security cameras hidden in trees that cost more than most people's homes. At 4 in the morning, the property looked like something from a magazine spread. Peaceful, untouchable, safe. Dante Moretti sat in a stolen van 300 yards away, watching through binoculars while Anton briefed the team one final time. 8 guards on rotation, 2 at the main gate, 2 patrolling the perimeter, 4 stationed inside the house. Standard corporate security, not military. They're trained to call police, not engage. Richard Beaumont is in the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, East Wing. His wife is visiting family in Connecticut. Celeste is staying in the guest house by the pool. Serena listened from the back of the van, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Dante lowered the binoculars. "We go in quiet. No shooting unless they shoot first. We get to Richard. We make him call off the bounty and the mercenary teams. Then we disappear before local police arrive." "And if he refuses?" one of Anton's men asked. Dante's voice was flat. "Then we make him regret refusing." He checked his weapon one more time, then looked back at Serena. "Last chance to stay in the van." "Not happening." "You don't need to see what comes next." "Neither do you, but we're both going anyway." Dante's expression softened slightly. "When this is over, if we survive, I'm taking you somewhere far away from all of this." "Where?" "Anywhere you want." "I want Puerto Rico. I want to see my mother. I want to sit on her porch and drink coffee and pretend the last month never happened." "Then that's where we'll go." He leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "Stay behind me. Stay quiet. And if something goes wrong, you run toward the trees. Don't look back." "Okay." "I mean it, Serena." "I know." They moved, 6 people total. Dante, Serena, Anton, and 3 Serbian contractors who looked like they ate violence for breakfast. They approached from the east side where the tree line came closest to the property. Cut through the fence with bolt cutters. Disabled 2 security cameras with a jammer Anton had brought. The first guard never knew they were there. He was smoking a cigarette near the pool house when Anton came up behind him and put him in a chokehold. 30 seconds. The guard went limp. They zip-tied his hands and feet and left him unconscious behind a hedge. The second perimeter guard met the same fate near the garage. That left 6 inside the house. The service entrance was locked, but not alarmed. Anton picked it in under a minute. They entered through the kitchen. Stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, a wine refrigerator that probably cost more than Serena's entire apartment building. Everything was dark, silent. Dante moved like a ghost through the house. Hand signals only, no words. They found 2 guards in the main hallway watching security monitors. One of the Serbians took them both down with precise strikes to pressure points. They collapsed without making a sound. 4 guards left. 2 would be upstairs near the bedrooms. 2 somewhere on the 1st floor. Dante gestured for Anton and the Serbians to clear the 1st floor. He and Serena would go upstairs. The staircase was wide, expensive. Every step probably cost $1,000. Serena's hands were shaking. She gripped the railing to steady herself. They reached the 2nd floor landing. A guard sat in a chair outside the master bedroom, half asleep, scrolling through his phone. Dante moved so fast the guard barely had time to look up. 1 punch, The guard's head snapped back. He slumped in the chair, unconscious. Dante caught him before he could fall and make noise. He zip-tied the guard and propped him back in the chair like nothing had happened. Then he slowly turned the handle on the master bedroom door. It opened silently. The room was massive. King-size bed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate. Richard Beaumont slept peacefully under expensive sheets, his breathing deep and even. Dante crossed the room in 4 steps. He pressed his gun against Richard's temple. "Wake up." Richard's eyes snapped open. For 3 seconds, confusion. Then recognition. Then fear. "Don't move. Don't scream. Don't make any sound except answering my questions." Richard's voice was hoarse from sleep. "You're insane." "I'm motivated." "There's a difference." Dante stepped back slightly but kept the gun aimed. "Serena, turn on the light." She found the switch. Warm light flooded the room. Richard sat up slowly, his expensive pajamas rumpled, his carefully maintained composure cracking. "You break into my home, threaten me with a gun. Do you have any idea what this will cost you? I'm already dead. You made sure of that, so I have nothing left to lose." Dante's voice was colder than Serena had ever heard it. "Which means I can do absolutely anything I want right now." Richard tried to maintain control. "If you kill me, my lawyer releases everything. You lose. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to give you a choice." "What choice?" "You call off the bounty on Serena. You recall every mercenary team you hired. You tell Celeste to disappear and never contact me or anyone in my organization again. And in exchange, I let you live." Richard almost laughed. "That's your negotiation? You let me live in exchange for everything I've worked toward. I'm also offering you something else." "What?" "Proof that you've been laundering money through Beaumont Capital for the Sinaloa cartel for the past 6 years. The room went completely silent. Richard's face drained of color. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Dante pulled out a folder from inside his jacket and threw it on the bed. Bank records, wire transfers, names of intermediaries, dates, amounts. Everything a federal prosecutor would need to send you to prison for the rest of your life. Richard stared at the folder like it was a venomous snake. "Where did you get this?" "Luca Moreno, before he betrayed me. Turns out he spent 6 months digging into your finances, called it insurance. Guess he was right." Richard reached for the folder with shaking hands. He opened it, read the first page. His face went from pale to gray. "This is fabricated. It's real, and you know it." Dante sat on the edge of the bed like they were having a casual conversation. "See, Richard, you thought you were smarter than me. Thought money and lawyers made you untouchable. But you forgot something important." "What?" "People like me have been surviving people like you for generations. We know every trick, every loophole, every weakness." Dante leaned forward. "You want to destroy me? Fine. But I'm taking you down with me. These documents go to the FBI, DEA, and every major newspaper in the country if anything happens to me or Serena. Your choice." Richard's hands were trembling. "You can't prove these are real." "I don't need to prove anything. I just need to create enough suspicion that federal agents start asking questions. Once they dig into Beaumont Capital, they'll find everything eventually." Dante stood. "So here's what happens now. You pick up that phone, you call whoever manages your mercenary teams, and you tell them to stand down. Immediately. And if I refuse, then I walk out of here. And by noon tomorrow, every law enforcement agency in the country has copies of those documents. Your empire collapses. Your family name becomes synonymous with cartel money, and you spend whatever years you have left in a federal prison surrounded by people who hate rich criminals." Richard looked at Serena for the first time. "This is all because of her? You're willing to destroy everything over a maid?" Serena's voice came out stronger than she expected. "I'm not a maid. I'm a person. Something you never bothered to notice." Richard's expression twisted with contempt. "You're nothing. A nobody from nowhere who got lucky enough to catch the attention of a criminal. And when this is over, you'll go back to being nothing." Dante moved so fast Richard did not see it coming. He grabbed Richard by the throat and slammed him against the headboard. "Say one more word about her and I'll forget every plan I made tonight." Richard gasped for air, his face turning red. Dante held him there for 5 more seconds, then released him. Richard collapsed back against the pillows, coughing, terrified. "Make the call." Richard reached for his phone on the nightstand with shaking hands. He dialed. Someone answered after 3 rings. It's Beaumont. I need you to recall all teams immediately. Yes, all of them. No, this is not negotiable. Stand down and return to base. I'll explain later. He hung up and looked at Dante with pure hatred. Done. Now call off the bounty. Richard made another call, this one shorter. Remove the contract. Yes, the one from last week. Full cancellation. Refund if necessary. Just get it done. He ended the call. Satisfied? Not yet. One more thing. Dante pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. You're going to write a letter to Celeste. Tell her you made a mistake. Tell her to leave the country and never contact me or my organization again. Tell her if she refuses, you'll cut her off completely. No money, no family support, nothing. She's my daughter. She's the reason we're here. So you'll do it. Or those documents get released anyway. Richard took the pen. His hand shook as he wrote. When he finished, Dante took the letter and read it. Good enough. He walked toward the door, then stopped. One last thing, Richard. If you ever come after me or anyone I care about again, if you ever even think about it, I won't negotiate. I'll just burn your entire world down and watch you lose everything while you're still alive to feel it. Richard said nothing. Dante and Serena left the bedroom. They were halfway down the stairs when they heard voices. Anton appeared from the hallway, gun drawn. We have a problem. Celeste is awake. She heard something. She's calling someone. Where is she? Guest house, but local police are probably already on their way. Dante cursed under his breath. How long do we have? 5 minutes? Maybe less? Then we leave. Now! They moved toward the service entrance, but before they could reach it, gunfire erupted from outside. Someone was shooting at the van. The Serbians returned fire. Anton grabbed Dante's arm. It's not police. It's one of the mercenary teams. They must have been close when Beaumont made the call. How many? 4, maybe 5. They have the van pinned down. Dante looked at Serena. Can you shoot? I don't know. I did it once. That's good enough. He handed her a gun. Point, pull the trigger, don't think about it. They moved toward the back of the house. Through the kitchen windows, Serena could see muzzle flashes in the darkness. The Serbians were taking cover behind the van, returning fire, but they were outnumbered. Dante kicked open the back door. Cover left side. I'll take right. Then they were in hell. Bullets tearing through the air, wood splintering, glass shattering. Serena aimed at shapes moving in the darkness and pulled the trigger. The recoil jarred her entire arm. She had no idea if she hit anything, just kept shooting until the magazine was empty. Dante was firing methodically. 2 shots. Someone screamed. 3 more shots. Another mercenary went down. Anton threw something. A grenade. The explosion lit up the night. 2 more mercenaries stumbled out from behind trees, disoriented. The Serbians cut them down. Then silence, except for sirens in the distance. Police are coming. We need to go. They ran to the van. One of the Serbians was dead, shot through the chest. They left him because there was no time, and carrying bodies meant getting caught. They drove. 90 miles an hour through back roads, headlights off, navigating by moonlight and GPS. Behind them, the Beaumont estate lit up with police cars and ambulances. But they were already gone. They drove until dawn, switching vehicles twice, until they reached a small airport in Indiana where Anton had arranged a private plane. No questions. No paperwork. Just cash and a pilot who did not care where they had been or why they looked like they had survived a war. The plane took off as the sun broke over the horizon. Serena sat in one of the leather seats, staring out the window at clouds that looked like they could hold the weight of everything that had happened. Dante sat across from her, his face hollow with exhaustion. Anton was in the back, bandaging wounds and making calls to people who could sanitize what they had left behind. Valentina had stayed in Wisconsin with the wounded. She would meet them later, she said, after things settled, after the smoke cleared, if it ever did. They flew for 3 hours, landed in Miami, switched to another plane, and by noon they were touching down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The air was warm, heavy with humidity and salt from the ocean. Serena stepped off the plane and felt something inside her chest crack open. She was home. Dante arranged for a car to take them to Serena's mother's neighborhood. Small houses, bright colors, children playing in the streets, music drifting from open windows. Everything Chicago was not. They stopped in front of a modest house with a blue door and flowers planted in old coffee cans along the porch. Serena's mother appeared in the doorway. She was smaller than Serena remembered, grayer, but her eyes were the same, sharp, knowing. She looked at her daughter, then at Dante, then back at Serena. ¿Qué pasó? What happened? Serena felt tears burning. Es una historia larga, mami. It's a long story. Her mother opened her arms, and Serena collapsed into them like she was 5 years old again, and the world was not full of violence and impossible choices. They stayed for 3 days. Dante kept security watching the house from a distance, but gave Serena space to breathe and heal and remember what it felt like to be someone other than a target. On the 4th day, Serena and Dante sat on the porch while her mother made coffee inside. What happens now? Serena asked. Dante was quiet for a long moment. I have to go back, rebuild what's left of the organization, deal with Luca, figure out how to operate with half my people dead or in hiding. And me? You stay here, safe, free, living the life you deserve. Serena looked at him. You're leaving. I'm setting you free. I don't want to be free. I want to be with you. Dante's voice cracked slightly. You can't. My world will kill you eventually. If not Beaumont, then someone else. There's always someone else. Then leave your world. Walk away. We'll disappear together. I can't. Why not?
Because
I'm responsible for too many people. Their families, their livelihoods. I walk away and they all suffer. Serena felt anger replacing the sadness. So you're choosing them over us. I'm choosing to do the right thing for once in my life. The right thing is abandoning me? Dante stood and walked to the edge of the porch. The right thing is keeping you alive, even if it means losing you. He turned back to face her. I love you, Serena, more than I've loved anything in my entire life, and that's exactly why I have to let you go. Tears were streaming down Serena's face. That's not love. That's cowardice. Maybe, but it's the only kind of love I know how to give. He walked down the porch steps. A car was waiting at the curb. Anton in the driver's seat. Dante looked back one more time. Thank you for reminding me I still had a soul worth saving, even if I don't know what to do with it anymore. Then he got in the car and drove away. Serena stood on that porch watching taillights disappear around the corner, feeling like someone had carved out her chest and left her hollow. Her mother came outside and wrapped an arm around her. Ese hombre te ama. That man loves you. I know. Pero está roto. But he's broken. I know that too. Her mother squeezed her shoulder. Entonces tienes que decidir si puedes amar a alguien roto o si necesitas a alguien completo. Then you have to decide if you can love someone broken or if you need someone whole. Serena did not have an answer, so she just stood there watching the empty street, feeling like the story was supposed to end differently, but not knowing how to rewrite the ending that had already happened. 6 months passed. Serena stayed in Puerto Rico, helped her mother around the house, sent money to her brother who was finishing his final semester at Northwestern, started working at a small cafe near the beach, where nobody knew her story and nobody asked questions. She tried to move on, tried to forget. But every morning when she made coffee, she thought about Dante Moretti standing in his kitchen at 7 a.m., drinking espresso cold and bitter and alone. Then one afternoon, her mother called her inside. Hey, alguien aquí para ti. There's someone here for you. Serena walked into the living room. Dante sat on the couch looking thinner than she remembered, tired, but his eyes were different, clearer somehow. He stood when she entered. I know I don't have the right to be here. Serena's throat tightened. Then why are you? Because I did something I've never done before. What? I walked away from all of it. The organization, the empire, Chicago, everything. He took a step closer. I spent 6 months dismantling what my father built, sold the businesses to people who would run them legitimately, set up trust funds for the families who depended on me, turned over evidence to federal prosecutors in exchange for immunity. Serena stared at him. You destroyed your own empire? I didn't need an empire. I needed a reason to wake up in the morning that didn't involve counting bodies. Another step closer. And the only reason I could think of was you. Serena felt tears burning. You can't just show up here and expect me to forgive you. You left me. You chose your responsibilities over us. You're right, and I'm sorry. I was a coward. But I'm here now, asking for a second chance I don't deserve. Why now? Because I finally understood something. My father spent his entire life building power, and he died alone, surrounded by people who feared him, but nobody who loved him. I was following the exact same path. Dante's voice cracked. Until you showed me there was another way to live. A way where morning coffee actually meant something. Where caring about people wasn't weakness. Where being decent was more valuable than being feared. He knelt in front of her. I don't have an empire anymore. I don't have money or power or connections. All I have is a choice to be someone different, someone better, and I want to make that choice with you. Serena looked down at him, at this man who had built his entire identity on violence and control, who had torn it all down for a chance at something real. What are you asking me? I'm asking if you can love someone who's still learning how to be human, someone who's going to make mistakes, someone who has no idea what normal looks like, but wants to figure it out anyway. Serena was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached down and took his hand. Stand up. He did. She looked into his eyes. I can't promise this will work. I can't promise I won't be angry about what you put me through. And I definitely can't promise it'll be easy. I know. But I can promise I'll try. If you really mean this, if you're really done with that world. I'm done. I swear. Serena studied his face, looking for any trace of the man who had held a gun to Richard Beaumont's head. She found something else instead. Hope. Fragile. Uncertain. Real. Okay. 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 Dante pulled her close and held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. And maybe she was. They stood in her mother's living room, two people who had survived a war that should have killed them both, holding on to each other while the afternoon sun painted everything gold through the windows. Outside, children played in the streets. Music drifted from neighbors' houses. The world kept turning like it always did. And somewhere in that small house with the blue door and flowers and coffee cans, a dangerous man and a decent woman started building something that looked nothing like an empire and everything like a home. It would take time, years probably. Learning how to love without fear, how to trust without testing, how to live without looking over their shoulders. But they had time now, and that was worth more than all the power and money and violence Dante had ever known. 6 months later, Serena opened her own cafe in Old San Juan. Small place, 20 tables. Coffee from local farms and pastries her mother taught her to make. Dante worked construction during the day, came home exhausted and covered in dust, complained about his back hurting and his hands being too soft for real labor. But he smiled more, laughed at things that were not threats or strategies or calculated risks, learned how to exist in the world without needing to control it. Valentina visited twice a year. She never asked about Chicago or the Empire or what had happened to everyone they left behind. She just drank tea and told stories about Sicily and watched her son become someone she had always hoped he could be. Serena's brother graduated from Northwestern and moved to San Juan, started working at a nonprofit helping kids from rough neighborhoods. He and Dante became close in a way that surprised everyone. Two men from completely different worlds finding common ground and trying to build something better. And slowly, over months and then years, the nightmares faded. The hypervigilance softened. The weight of everything they had survived became something they could carry together instead of alone. One evening, Serena and Dante sat on the beach watching the sunset paint the ocean in colors that looked impossible. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "Miss what?" "The power. The control. Being someone people feared." Dante was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes, late at night, when I can't sleep, I miss knowing exactly who I was and what I was good at." He looked at her. "But then I wake up next to you, and I make coffee in a kitchen that doesn't feel like a fortress, and I realize I don't miss being that person at all. What if someone from your old life finds us?" "They won't," I made sure of it. "New names, new identities, clean break." "But what if they do?" Dante took her hand. "Then we deal with it. Together, like we deal with everything else." Serena leaned against his shoulder. I never thought my life would end up here. Where did you think it would end up? Making coffee for rich people, sending money home, surviving. And now? Now I'm living. There's a difference. They sat in silence, watching waves crash against rocks that had been there for thousands of years and would be there for thousands more. Two people who had survived impossible odds, who had lost everything and found each other in the wreckage, who had learned that sometimes the greatest act of courage was not fighting. It was choosing to stop fighting and build something worth protecting instead. As the sun finally disappeared below the horizon, Dante spoke one more time. Thank you. For what? For seeing the person I could be, even when I couldn't see it myself. Serena squeezed his hand. Thank you for becoming him. And in that moment, surrounded by nothing but ocean and sky and the quiet knowledge that they had survived, Serena Cruz finally understood what her grandmother had told her years ago. That true strength was not about never breaking. It was about learning how to rebuild yourself into something better than what you were before. She had rebuilt herself. Dante had rebuilt himself. And together, they had built a life that would never make headlines or inspire fear or command respect from powerful people. But it was theirs, honest, imperfect, real, and that was worth more than any empire ever built on violence and blood. The story could have ended differently, with bodies and revenge and Pyrrhic victories that tasted like ash. But instead it ended with coffee brewing in a small cafe, with a former Mafia boss learning how to fix plumbing, with a woman from Puerto Rico who had survived being a target and came out the other side still believing in human decency. It ended with two people sitting on a beach, holding hands, watching the sunset, living proof that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the war and choose peace instead, even when peace is harder than fighting ever was.